Okay, so hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Default Global. This is where we connect with global first entrepreneurs and remote work experts from all around the world to share their experiences. Our guest today is Sharon Biggar, head of marketing at TestGorilla. Sharon, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on the podcast. Really appreciate it.
Sure, Sharon, it's fantastic to have you on Default Global today. So, with your wealth of experience in growth, marketing, analytics, and your role as a head of marketing at Test Gorilla, and probably your previous role as a VP of marketing in Hotjar, right? So, you must have a lot of stories to tell, right? So,
I hope so.
can you give us maybe a quick rundown of your career, focusing on the big moments that
Yeah,
got you here?
yeah, sure thing. So it's interesting you talk about it in terms of stories because I think that's always what I've wanted to be is a storyteller.
Okay.
And I started in consulting, in management consulting, because there you are telling stories, usually of how to change. You're trying to persuade people of the benefits of change. Then I left there and started my own company. So I was an entrepreneur and a founder myself for 9 years. And we were using data. We're a data analytics company for shopping malls and trying to help them understand how to better lay out their shopping malls to suit their customers. And I left there to really jump into analytics in a big way. I went into mobile gaming, which is probably the most advanced industry in terms of analytics. Just was loving the data side of it. So did that for 5 years until we sold that company. And then, as you said, was really interested by this remote work idea and found Hotjar. Uh, and so came across to Hotjar before the pandemic. Hotjar has always been remote, fully remote from day one, and tried to learn how to do remote work. And then the rest of the world was forced to follow. And then, yes, like a couple of years ago, we sold Hotjar, so it was time to move on again. And that's when I came to join TestGorilla and to take my journey with TestGorilla to the next stage.
Awesome, awesome. And talking about Test Gorilla is making waves by transforming the hiring process through comprehensive talent assessments, right? So maybe could you talk a bit more about Test Gorilla and what value you guys provide to your clients?
Yes, absolutely. So at TestGorilla, we believe that work is changing, and you see this all the time. Work is becoming more human. It needs to become more human in order to attract the great talent that's out there. But the one part of this that's stuck is hiring. Hiring, in our opinion, hasn't changed. The vast majority of jobs are still filled by, first of all, asking for a resume or a CV. And this is a piece of paper that's outdated, in our opinion. CVs and resumes were first created back in the 13th or 14th century. And they haven't changed much since then. And so we think it's CVs are not only outdated, but they contribute to bias, and they don't allow people to really show off what they're capable of. Or on the other side of that, people it can be misleading. Often people have trouble trusting the data that they see on a resumes. So we really see resumes as being the the point in the hiring process that things break down. And so we believe instead of having one piece of paper that tries to show you can't really put one person down on one piece of paper, we believe a better way is to let people showcase their own skills, to show off what they can do. So let them take whatever tests they want to take to really showcase their ability and to prove to future employees what they're capable of. And we think this is even more important in today's society because we've seen so many studies that have shown that if you have exactly the same resume, but you put Henry as the name rather than Sally, undoubtedly Henry gets the interview. Or if you happen to put an ethnic sounding name or a minority sounding name, it's unfortunately still the case that we are biased towards white males. And when you are looking to recruit globally, resumes do not help you. I live in Spain. I'm originally from New Zealand, but I live in Spain. And so I have a fair idea of what the good universities, the good companies are here in Spain. But if I was to see a CV from someone in Brazil or someone in Argentina, I don't have that same level of knowledge of what's a good university in Brazil or a good company to work for in Argentina. And so looking at a CV, it's very, very difficult for me to make a judgment on the skills and the ability of that person. But there's fantastic talent across the world, and we believe we should allow those people to showcase what they're good at.
Yeah, and speaking about talent across the world, your team is spread out all around the globe. You with teammates in the US, the UK, Netherlands, Spain, Germany, India, right? I guess a
Yes.
couple more. So, can you tell us maybe how your team works globally and what you do to make a worldwide team that's creative and efficient?
Yes, it's a great question because it's not easy. It's not
I can
easy to
imagine.
run a team that's 24 hours without going beyond the bounds of your own work-life balance, right? So I do have a team across the globe, but I also have a family. So I don't want to be taking calls in the evenings, in the mornings, etc. So how do we deal with that? What we do is it's very important to us that we are inclusive of all of those different time zones. If you're the only person working from Australia, you don't want to feel lonely. You don't want to feel left out of the communication that's going on. So what we'll do is our weekly marketing meetings, our weekly company meetings, these rotate at different times. So they're not always at the same time every week. One week they'll be in the afternoon European time, then they might be in the very early morning, and they might be at the very end of the day, to enable people the opportunity to join one in every two or one in every three, depending on their time zone. We also make sure to record all of those meetings. So if for some reason somebody can't be there because of their time zone or for another reason, they can watch the recording. And like most remote companies, we put a lot of emphasis on documentation and making sure that people can catch up asynchronously without needing to be there in person at that specific time.
Yeah, and in I guess it was in one of your recent posts where you discussed the critical role of trust in remote teams, right? How does TestGorilla build trust within its team, and when they're spread out and not working in an office together or even in the same time zone, right?
Yeah, it starts right from recruitment. So you have to trust and believe that you have hired talented people. And that's why we actually have a minimum score that people must achieve on their test gorilla tests before they get accepted into a test gorilla role. So we know from day one that the people we are hiring have the skill to do the job. So we can trust them, trust that they have the skill necessary. And then from that moment, it's all about the small interactions and just being consistent every single day. I do ask my team to have their cameras on as much as possible because seeing someone's face and movement helps you to understand who they are and maybe have a little bit more empathy with that individual. So having cameras on helps a lot. And then it's just about every day doing something to build that trust between two people, whether it might be you have to be a bit more intentional and conscious about it in a remote setting. So allowing time for people to have a half an hour coffee chat where they're not talking about work. They're talking about what they did on the weekend or their family or their hobbies. We make sure in every marketing meeting each week, the first 15 minutes is dedicated to a fun social event. And that can be anything, whether it's playing charades through to doing a jigsaw puzzle together, through to playing some kind of game where you have to guess the word without saying the word, that kind of thing. Um,
Every meeting, really?
every week we do something,
Every
and it's
weekly
incredible
meeting.
how
Okay. Uh-huh.
every week for the whole department, it's incredible how creative people get. I don't think we've repeated a
Okay.
game yet,
Cool.
which is super fun. Yeah,
That's
so
great.
it's all about making those conscious moments to have that social interaction.
Yeah, in frankly speaking, I hear this all the time about trust, and I completely agree with this. But could you maybe share some specific example, maybe, where building trust has led to some improvements within your team?
That's a great question. Um, so I think it's about, as a manager, you have to be very conscious of what outcome you want and not focus on the steps, right? We can't watch and see if somebody is at their chair 8 hours a day. What we can see is the outcome that comes out of it. Uh, and so I think a good example is we deliver once a year, we deliver a state of skills-based hiring report. And last year we did this. Um, and the outcome I was asking the team to deliver was this report on our website, available and ready for people to download. Um, I just had to trust that they would deliver that. I can't sit there and watch. Are they sitting at their desks designing the output? Are they writing it? No. I gave them the goal, and I have to say the output they came up with far exceeded my expectations. So I trusted that I knew they had the skills to deliver it. I trusted that they can deliver it, and they did.
That's awesome. As and because we started talking about trust, right? Heaven has a question, and let's go back to the core of your business, right? This assessments, right? So we do the same in my company every day. We send like thousands of assessments. We have thousands of interviews. But with this new, let's call it AI trend, right? We see that it became hard to trust people and send this home assignment to those guys, right? And I'm pretty sure that you know what I'm talking about. So I would like to ask. I'm just wondering if you have the same issue in your company, and maybe you have some solution that you provide to your clients to kind of I don't know, just to make sure that those assignments are done by people, not this AI.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have two stages in our recruitment process. The first is you must sit a test gorilla assessment. All of the test gorilla assessments come with anti-cheating built into them. So the individual will come onto the test gorilla platform and actually take the test on our platform. And during that test, there are anti-cheating algorithms being run in the background to
And
ensure
how
that that
how
person.
does it work? Those.
It's using the camera, so the candidate is aware. It's one of the requirements that they must check as they come into the assessment. It's using the camera to ensure that the person is actually there and is not looking at a second screen. It's also monitoring the screen, and it's looking to check if they go off the screen to go somewhere else. And we are building additional functionality right now, specifically designed to capture if AI is being used. There are, of course, some assessments where we actually want people to use AI, right? If you're a programmer, using AI makes sense. So there are some specific assessments where that's actually a good thing. But of course, we don't want them using AI to answer questions across the board. For other skills.
Okay. So you do allow software engineers to use AI during their assessments, right?
It depends on the assessment and it depends on the client. So some of our clients do not want the candidates to use AI. And then, of course, we will be looking to check that they don't. We are building right now specific assessments that test your ability to use AI. So there are coming new tests that test your ability to use ChatGPT, etc., and other programming, more specific programming AI, to test your ability to code using those tools, because that in itself is a skill. Yeah, so that's what we're working on right now. So I
Okay.
would say that's how we do it for the assessments, for the core assessment. That gets you into the first stage of our recruitment. And then, as you were saying, we do also give take-home assignments. The way we deal with the potential for that to be cheated, I guess, via AI, is we ask the individual to present that work back to us. And in that presentation, of course, I'm sure many companies do this, we ask a lot of questions, and we double check that the person is able to respond to those challenges in the moment. Obviously, they can't use AI when they're directly in front of us like that.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what we're doing here in Go Global. So, this topic of global hiring is central to TestGorilla's mission, right? So, let's go back to it. So, could you maybe walk us through your strategies for identifying and overcoming challenges when hiring talent from different countries?
Yeah, so it's as I said earlier, a big challenge is it's very hard to quantify someone's ability and someone's experience. Very hard to do that in the country that you already live in. Almost impossible to do that in a different country. Um, and the thing is, talent is everywhere around the globe. So if we restrict to only looking for talent very close to wherever the role might be, we're omitting the potential for a lot of talented people. And so what we are hoping is that by removing away from the resume, moving away from the CV, we allow every human to reach their full potential. And what we know that about 60 to 70% of people are unhappy at work. Okay, this is a statistic people talk about a lot. And they're often unhappy because they are in roles that don't play to their strengths. And so we feel like if we can fix this part of hiring and we can let people show what they're capable of, get into a job that aligns with what they're good at and aligns with their strengths, we can actually improve mental health and happiness for a very large number of people. Our overall mission is to put 1 billion people in their dream job. And we think that if we put 1 billion people in their dream job, we will be improving mental health and happiness for 1 billion people, which would have a dramatic impact on society.
Yeah, that's an awesome mission, I would say. And but let's go maybe more on tactical level. So could you maybe share your insights into the tactics Test Gorilla employs to source and hire tech talent on such a global scale?
How we actually look for our own talent, you mean?
Yeah, 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 exactly.
Yeah, so yeah, of course, we're a remote company, so we're looking for talent across the world. Um, and the first thing we do, of course, is advertise on our own website. So thankfully, TestGorilla is gaining more attention, and that means talent is starting to seek us out. So advertising simply on our own website helps a lot. And then we do advertise. We use a lot of the remote specific job boards to advertise the fact that all of our roles are 100% remote. So we find those remote job boards to be most effective.
Okay, that's great. So you have helped many companies grow through marketing and smart planning, right? So considering the way things are in the economy right now, what creative maybe ideas do you think could help tech companies grow, maybe cut costs and make more money? I don't know. Maybe some ideas to those companies who are planning to go global. Maybe this kind of thing might help. Can you talk
Yeah,
about it?
um, I really think it's not very sexy, but it is all about going back to basics and about making sure you know what your marketing positioning and messaging is. I strongly believe that as we move to an AI world, um, the way people discover companies will change. So right now, a lot of SEO is focused on ranking for hundreds of keywords. But as we move to AI, and ChatGPT gives you one answer, so you need to make sure that you are included in that one answer. And that's probably going to be true for a handful of topics, 3, 5, if you're lucky, maybe slightly more than that, but not significantly more than that. And so I think it's not very sexy, but it's really about going back to what are the 3 to 5 things that are unique about your company where you really have something unique to add or unique to say, so that's where you stand out, so that when the AI is pulling back one answer, it's pulling back your company and referencing your content and your specific point of view.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that. Yeah. So, and maybe you have some tips for those talent, those professionals from all around the world who are looking for this opportunity to join this international or US-based company, or I don't know, companies that from Silicon Valley, maybe some cool startups, maybe a TestGorilla company, right? So, drawing your own experience and TestGorilla's, approach, what advice would you offer to these talented individuals who are looking to become a part of a global team?
Yeah, I think that the 2 things I would say are find some way to show off your skills. Um, I'm from New Zealand. If I come to a company in Silicon Valley and tell them about the companies I worked for in New Zealand, they would have no idea. So I have to find some other way to show that I know what I'm talking about. And then secondly, find a company that really aligns with your passion. So I would say put your effort into researching different companies, and there are a lot out there. So um, find those that really resonate with you, whether it's the culture that you like, whether it's the mission that you like, because that passion will show through in an interview. So just to give you an example, um, I was very keen to join TestGorilla. I was very passionate about joining TestGorilla because I had a problem at Hotjar when I was leading the marketing team at Hotjar, which is I wanted to increase the diversity of the marketing team at Hotjar, but it's very difficult to go about increasing diversity as a stated goal. Uh, Without being biased in some way or the other. So I was incredibly excited when I saw what Test Gorilla could offer, and the fact that it could give me the scores without showing me the names, so that I wouldn't have be any way biased towards different names or different types of people in any shape or form. And so it was solving for me a problem that I had suffered from. So I was very passionate about the product. And I believe that showed through. So I think that's an important thing for people to find something that really inspires them, really motivates them. Because when you get on the call with a hiring manager or a recruiter and you talk about your experience and why you're interested in joining the company, that will come across.
That's awesome. Sharon, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Your insights into building and managing global first teams, this trust in remote settings, and this dynamic landscape of tech recruitment have been incredibly valuable. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you very much for it. Thank you for having me.
Sure.